بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Dear students, welcome you all to week 11 of the e-learning program of Pakistan International School. I hope you are enjoying our informative video lectures prepared by our learned faculty members. In the last 3 lectures, we learned a lot about the Aryans and their society. Today we are continuing with the same chapter. Dear students, in the next 3 classes, we will discuss in details one of the oldest civilization of the ancient times. You can see the map. Yes, it is the map of a very vast empire which is known as the Achaemenid Empire or the Persian Empire. Dear students, feel free to ask questions during the course of lecture. Dear students, the people of Persia are called Persians. The Persians are an Iranian ethnic group that make up over half the population of Iran. They share a common cultural system and are native speakers of the Persian language, as well as languages closely related to Persian. The Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire, lasted from approximately 559 BCE to 331 BCE. At its height, it encompassed the areas of modern-day Iran, Egypt, Turkey, and parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Dear students, from 539 BC to 331 BC, the Persian Empire was the most powerful state in the world. Ruled from Persia, now Iran, it stretched from Egypt to India. It had rich resources of water, fertile farmland, and gold. The Persian Empire is the name given to a series of dynasties centered in modern-day Iran, that spanned several centuries from the 6th century BC to the 20th century AD. The First Persian Empire, founded by Cyrus the Great around 550 BC, became one of the largest empires in history. Here is the question, that how far this great empire stretched. The Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire, lasted from approximately 559 BCE to 331 BCE. At its height, it encompassed the areas of modern-day Iran, Egypt, Turkey, and parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. It was larger than any previous empire in history, spanning 5.5 million square kilometers, that is equal to 2.1 million square miles. Dear students, Cyrus II of Persia, commonly known as Cyrus the Great, and also called Cyrus the Elder by the Greeks, was the founder of the Achaemenid Empire, the First Persian Empire. Under his rule, the empire embraced all the previous civilized states of the ancient Near East, expanded vastly and eventually conquered most of Western Asia and much of Central Asia. From the Mediterranean Sea and Hellespont in the west to the Indus River in the east, Cyrus the Great created the largest empire the world had yet seen. Under his successors, the empire eventually stretched at its maximum extent from parts of the Balkans, Bulgaria, Paeonia and Thrace, Macedonia, and Eastern Europe in the west, to the Indus Valley in the east. Dear students, Cambyses II was the second king of kings of the Achaemenid Empire from 530 to 522 BC. He was the son and successor of Cyrus the Great. Before his accession, Cambyses had briefly served as the governor of northern Babylonia under his father. He was appointed as co-ruler by his father in 530 BC. After his father's death, he became the sole ruler of the vast Persian Empire. His relatively brief reign was marked by his conquests in Africa, notably Egypt, which he conquered after his victory over the Egyptian pharaoh. After having established himself in Egypt, he expanded his holdings in Africa even further. In the spring of 522 BC, Cambyses hurriedly left Egypt to deal with a rebellion in Persia. Dear students, Darius I, Old Persian, commonly known as Darius the Great, was the third Persian king of kings of the Persian Empire, reigning from 522 BCE until his death in 486 BCE. He ruled the empire at its peak, when it included much of West Asia, parts of the Caucasus, parts of the Balkans, Thrace, Macedonia, and Paeonia, most of the Black Sea coastal regions, Central Asia, as far as the Indus Valley in the Far East, and portions of North and Northeast Africa including Egypt, eastern Libya, and coastal Sudan. Dear students, Xerxes the Great was the fourth king of kings of the Persian Empire, ruling from 486 to 465 BC. He was the son and successor of Darius the Great, and his mother was Atassa, a daughter of Cyrus the Great, the first Persian king. Like his father and predecessor Darius I, he ruled the empire at its territorial apex. He ruled from 486 BC until his assassination in 465 BC at the hands of Artabanus, the commander of the royal bodyguard. Dear students, today we discussed about one of the great ancient civilizations of the world. They were known as Achaemenid Empire or Persian Empire. It was vast empire which stretched from Europe to Egypt in south and to Indus in the east. Cyrus the Great was the founder of Persian Empire. Persian Empire had great rulers like Cambyses, Darius, and Xerxes the Great. Dear students, reading lesson from textbook will enrich your knowledge about the Persian Empire. Do solve the worksheet given at the end of today's lesson. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.